Leadership Redefined. We have a wonderful guest here today, a good friend of ours and wonderful person in this space. Uh, Anthony Rich, welcome.
Good morning.
So, Carol, I'll let you, Dr. Polney, I'll let you introduce yourself. The topic for today is we are talking about the reopening of schools. And Carol, I know you have a vast amount of experience, a lot in the technology space, strategies, procedures, what ideology as far as what we're going to do in this new world, whether it's blended or fully online or face to face. Some people are going. What are we doing? What strategies? And Anthony, I think you wanted to add to that. How is this going to impact us long term? Right? What is this going to do to us in education overall? This piece. So, Carol, welcome. Quick intro, and we'll get into the conversation.
Well, good morning. Thank you for the invitation. I appreciate the opportunity to be here with some of my favorite people. So I'm Dr. Carol Polney. I am currently the Director of Instructional Technology at the Eastport South Manor School District in Manorville. I am also an adjunct professor at LIU CW Post in their technology program. I've been in education for over 27 years, with most of those years with some type of technology position. So it's kind of in my blood and in my heart and my passion for teaching and learning.
Excellent. So, Carol, what are you? First, I want to hear two things: your thoughts on the reopening of schools and what strategies, what this pandemic has done, and how we've kind of reacted and adjusted, and maybe also what you're doing locally in your own district that you're working in now.
So I think it's been really interesting, all of the rules and regulations that we've had to follow to open schools. And it's funny, I just had a conversation with my family, a Zoom family meeting the other day, because they're all down south. And they're like, just bring everybody back to school. Everybody can be in school. And I said, you don't understand what we have to live by. When you're not in education, you're not seeing what some of these rules are. Desks have to be 6 feet apart. It doesn't allow for us to bring every student in. Of course, that's our goal. We want every student in school. And I think every school district can say that at this time. We want the kids here. But unfortunately, they can't all be here at the same time with the limitation of space and the regulations we need to follow. So I think districts have had not a lot of time to also plan for this, because we didn't get the information as quickly as we would have liked to. And it's, ever changing. We could go remote tomorrow if something happens. So, we're trying to have a balance of supporting the teachers, supporting the families, supporting the students, getting the kids into school, and doing this blended learning. So, we all have our reopening plans. They're works in progress because of those factors. One of the things that we're doing here is we decided to do an A day, B day schedule. So we have a blue and a silver. So we have students who are coming in, and this is K through 12. Students on blue days come in on Mondays and Thursdays. And then the silver students come in on Tuesdays and Fridays. All students are home remote on Wednesdays. All teachers are in school on Wednesdays. And, we're still learning how this is working. The teachers have been incredible, jumping in, trying things, trying to figure out what works best. We have standardized on Google Meet for all of our meetings. We have synchronous learning, we have asynchronous learning, we have teachers who are going live in front of the camera, teachers who are just sharing their screens out with their students and teaching live, teachers who are posting assignments in Google Classroom. So we're a Google district, but K-6, we're using Google. And then 7 through 12, we use Schoology, but we're also using Google Meet to interact with Schoology. So we've outfitted classrooms. So at our 7 through 12 building, we've put a webcam in every classroom. So they have a desktop computer located somewhere in the classroom, whether the back of the room, the front of the room. They have an interactive whiteboard in the front of the room. And then they also have a laptop in the front of the room, because if the computer that they're running their smartboard lessons from it is in the back of the room, they can't see the students in the meet. So they now have this laptop in the front of the room, and they have a second student account that they can log in so they can see their students, because that's really important to help build the culture of a classroom, especially in the beginning of a school year. You want to learn about your children. You want to learn about your students. So we wanted to make sure that they had that capability to see their students while they were doing this learning as well. So it's worked out better than I expected. You know, I kind of expected it to all explode, but the teachers have been really doing their best, and the students are in. It's been calm, it's been quiet. Teachers are asking a lot of questions. You know, parents are we're trying to give parents support as well for the students that are at home. I could probably just keep going on and on, but I don't know if you have any questions.
So, Carol, so you have essentially synchronous when you have half the students in the class, and then are the students at home on the same schedule and watching synchronously, or are they doing separate sort of work with different instructors? Like, is there any cross sort of pollination between those that are at home and those that are in school?
Yeah, so the students that are home, they log into the Google Meet and they meet with the class. It could be for 5 minutes, it could be for 15 minutes, it could be for the whole period. It just really depends upon the teacher, the grade level, the subject area. So there's that going on, but they all have to check in at some point because, you know, with state regulations, we also have to be taking attendance of students who are remote and students who are in school. So we need to account for all of these students and the instruction that they're receiving. So they are checking in. We're waiting for Google Enterprise to come out with their new features of taking attendance and being able to do all of that. So that should be out shortly. We definitely bought into that because we think it's a good feature for our teachers to have. And so there's really a little bit of everything going on. The teachers seem to be leaning more towards doing some live instruction, but they can do a morning meeting, they can record their morning meeting and then post that. We've also purchased several licenses of different things for the teachers to help them. So we purchased Screencastify because we want our teachers to be recording their lessons and posting that for students to have as reference, because they're not always going to have the teacher to refer back to.
And it's funny, we've been talking about the flipped learning model and recording lessons, and we've been talking about a lot of this for years. Not a lot of teachers do it, some do,
Right.
but now it's kind of mandatory. And it was funny, as you were talking about the attendance piece, I have 3 kids of my own, and they're all home for at least the 6 weeks here. And I'll hear them say, just really, they don't say anything the whole class, but they'll say here, and they'll check in for the attendance. And it's like, wait, you're not really there, you're home, but you know, you're saying you're here. So
they're not in school.
yeah, exactly.
Wow.
So it's
Yeah, my daughter's a teacher in Florida and she's fully remote still.
yeah. So we don't know what we're doing out here in Colorado, but might be till December that we're on online distance. Anthony, Rich.
My daughter just started and she's in Connecticut. They're in class. They're in class.
Full classes?
Well, they don't have full classes. They do the remote, like the AB day that you were discussing.
Right.
And she's a new teacher, and she's talking. And this is her passion since she was a little kid. But it's a huge challenge. You know, it's a huge challenge for the veteran teacher, but it's got to be a huge challenge for the new teacher who's. And I try to keep reminding her this is not really the way it's supposed to be. It's very extraordinary circumstances that you're dealing with, and it is. I just want to question, you know, to you, Carol, as you've gone through this, you know, particularly, and I want to just go back a little like to the March-June period where everybody was online, and obviously the possibility of going back online if this thing continues the way it has been. What have you seen is just if you can point out a few examples of some of the benefits and some of the positive outcomes from this disruption, as I think we call it and can call it?
So one of the things we're doing here is we're going one-to-one with Chromebooks. So of course we placed our order. They're saying November, December, January. You know, we have some devices here, but it's going to eliminate that inequity. So I think that's a big benefit, that all students will have the tools that they need, you know, when we get them in. Because that's still a challenge for us right now. We don't have enough devices to give to everybody, to outfit every classroom, to give to every teacher. So with the order we placed, we will be able to do that. Every teacher will get a device, every student will get a device. And I think that's important, because I think that's one of the things that not every teacher has embraced the use of technology. And because of my background and, you know, my passion for technology, this has kind of forced everybody to use technology in some capacity.
Yes.
And I met with a teacher yesterday and she said, I'm technology illiterate. I don't know how to do anything. I don't know what to do. Can you just show me? So we put a webcam in her classroom. We showed her, this is the one you do this. This is the computer that you mute. We tested it. I took her down the hallway and I joined her meet with my phone and showed her what students at home see. And I think that's part of it. They just don't know what's happening at home and they can't see that piece. So when you give them the opportunity to see that piece, they feel much more confident and ready to say, oh, okay, now I know that they're getting it. They're seeing what I want them to see. So I think it's allowing teachers to reach out more. They're going outside their box and their norm, which, you know, I think change is good. So, you know, I always embrace change. So I think this is an opportunity that we're seeing teachers change. One of the downsides I see, I think it's becoming a little too passive learning for students, just because teachers just need that support of how to make online learning a little more engaging. So that's what we are working towards, and we're trying to help support our teachers do. Like, what are some tools that you can use and how can you do this? And what's going to make it engaging, not just watch a video, answer some questions. We want to get away from that. That was old teaching. Then we were getting into working with groups and collaborative learning, and now they can't be near each other. So, you know, really trying to find that balance.
Yeah, Carol, I see, and Rich, I want to hear from you as well. I see that same trend with my own students. A lot of teachers that if they don't understand how to really engage with the technology, they're defaulting to traditional means, just almost chalk and talk, but with Zoom or with WebEx or with Meet, right? And it's really unfortunate that that happens, but it's on us to keep pushing. And one thing you mentioned about the teachers, I remember having a conversation with Rushton Hurley, who was really big on the education circuit way back when. And he mentioned that technology for teachers, they think it's like this really wide gap, but the reality is it's just a little tiny gap. You just have to have them understand and give them one little connection to say, oh, that's not that bad, right? And I think COVID has done that for teachers. Yes. They're like, all right, I don't have a choice, and show me something. And no, it's not that bad. So I think a lot of teachers have had those moments because they have to.
100%. You know, they had no choice when it happened in March of having to do something online, whether it was live teaching or posting assignments or anything. They had to do something. And some of them took it and ran with it. And then you have all these vendors and tools that were like, here, use everything for free. So really for a school district, another benefit is we're really getting to test a lot of these tools out to see what is beneficial, what works well at the K2 level, the 3-6 level, the 7-8 level, the 9-12 level, and really now see the usage and see what's engaging and what the teachers are finding beneficial and what the students are really, you know, grasping and learning from. So, you know, that's been a really big plus for us as well.
And it's promoted, I think, the sharing of collaboration, sharing of best practices, sharing of different, like you said, tools. So promoted a lot of that. Rich, I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, there's so many things to respond to. One thing that both you and Carol were saying, Al, reminded me of talking heads. It's one thing to stand in front of a classroom and say, we lost the War of 1812 online or in face-to-face. It's the same crappy methodology.
Right.
And it's easy for people to default to that if that's where their level of expertise, or rather of proficiency is with all of this. But Carol, the thing that really struck me, and I got a list here, I'm not going to read all of them back, but forgive the highfalutin words, is I wrote the cross intersection of considerations, which is a fancy set of words for all the intervening uh, issues and themes that the good leaders would need to account for to make the whole with a W work. I mean, you mentioned, and I'm not going in any order, you mentioned support. So someone's got to come up with a support system for the folks wherever they are on the continuum. The passivity issue is an instructional issue, even that much more in terms of supervision and support for that. You mentioned the issue of inequity, and then we can do 10 shows on that. So clearly you recognize that somehow or another you needed to account for that. And then you mentioned the word culture too. I appreciated that because, and I like the way you framed it too. When you talk about the need for teachers to establish the ordinary classroom culture that they always do the first several weeks of school opens, has to be somehow adjusted to make all that happen within the tech world. The physical layout. I mean, and then not to mention, you said it, but I wanted to emphasize it that much more, is the infrastructure, the tech infrastructure. You know, the moment one of those little cameras breaks down and all the world falls apart for that teacher, it's happened to all of us even now, I'm sure, or of course our attempts to be somewhat proficient at this. All of those things mean you need somebody to slide down the fireman's pole to go over there and help all that out. And so there's all these balls up in the air that have to be juggled and accounted for by the good leaders. So in terms of pulling this plan together, I know you say it's still a work in progress. I expected you to say that, given how I know you think. Tell me about some of the skills that leaders need to have to make this all work for children.
You need to be able to multitask, first of all. And
Stop
be very organized. But thankfully, I work with a really great team here. My superintendent he was like, can we get webcams? Can we order them now? Like, he's all on board with what are we doing with our students? How are we helping our teachers? And then our assistant superintendents, one of them is responsible for the L students. So we wanted to make sure that our L students are covered, that we're giving them the tools that they need. So their schedules are a little bit different. Some of them are coming in every day, same with our special ed students. They're coming in every day, but they're still being in their cohort. So they may not be in the classroom on the blue day because they're the silver cohort, but they're in the building in another location. So they're still being supported, and they're getting, they're being provided the education that they need and the support that they need. So we took that into account as well. And our assistant superintendent for curriculum and director of K-5 curriculum and instruction, they've really worked with the principals on, what is it that we need in the buildings, and how are we going to share information out with teachers, and what kind of information should we be sharing? So we're doing a lot of creating, here's what a sample day could look like. Not necessarily it has to be this way, but here's what it could look like. Start the day with a morning meeting at the elementary level. Start the day with a morning meeting, students check in. Then you go into your ELA lesson. Students who are at home are checked in for a little bit, then they're going off and they're doing their own work and they don't have to be online, and then they're checking back in for their math lesson. So they could check in a couple of times a day, and then they're ending the day together as well, having, a meeting at the end of the day. So kind of, they feel like they're in school, but also putting young students in front of computers for 6 hours a day, that's not reasonable. That's not feasible. it's not healthy for them.
Yeah, that
And,
well
and we
said.
recognize that.
Yeah, well said. So, Carol, if you could say, it sounds like you got collaboration, openness to
Great.
change, adjustment.
Moving toward the collective mindset.
Yeah, that's
That's it,
exactly right.
exactly.
What
We're
it, what it,
all working together.
yeah. So I guess what, if you could summarize the qualities of the leaders and the leadership team around you that really make this work, like a couple qualities, what would those be?
Collaborative, creative, intuitive, innovative,
Those are great.
organized,
Yeah, those are
thoughtful.
great.
You know what? And really caring about kids. That's
Empathy,
the biggest
Yeah.
thing. We
Yeah.
all want to do what is best for the kids. And that takes priority over everything else. What is our why? Why are we doing this?
A theme that probably should be in education in general, right? Like we shouldn't, I think COVID has made us realize again that, hey, kids first, right?
That's it.
It's kind of sort of rehoned our focus on what's important, but that's wonderful. Anthony, were you going to say something? Sorry.
No, this whole, I mean, what you just mentioned is I can say this without unequivocally, the passion that the three of us have, which has led us to even down this road of leadership redefined and the collective mindset. And it sounds like you have moved in that direction. And I only hope that that's the case in many districts. I don't know if that's true for all school districts. Mm-hmm. A lot of it's going to have to do with, to use Rich's term, the culture that exists there. But I want to just quickly ask, just put your get your crystal ball out, and how do you think? Because one of the things you said was, and I want to just quickly, and you and Al know this more than anything else, the challenge that tech people have, that you have, is not just bringing the technology, but getting people to use it. And this has kind of forced people to use that technology, which I think is a good thing. But then Rich brought up, and I can't agree with him more, the methodology piece. And do you think there are going to be any lasting positive effects from what we are going through right now in the K-12 world and, in your world? Any lasting
students,
impact,
for teachers,
or positive? What's that?
For students, for teachers?
Both.
So for teachers, one of the things that I always tell teachers is, and I had the opportunity, we had 3 superintendent's conference days before we had students come in. And I was able to go to every building and meet with the teaching staff at each building and spend about an hour with them, which was great for me because first it was an introduction, but it was also, what are we doing? What kind of resources are we providing you with? What are we giving you? So I got to spend time with them. And one of the things that I've shared with them is it's not going to be perfect, and it's not going to be 100% right. And you're going to have failures. I mean, we didn't know, was our internet going to be able to sustain everybody streaming? We wouldn't know anything until we actually did it. And we've told them that, like, we just don't know. We can say, we hope, we think, but until it actually happens, we don't know. And we told them they need to understand that too. Something may happen, it may fail. Zoom has gone down. The other day, Google Drive didn't work. So Google Meets worked, and so everybody was in their Meets, but they couldn't access their Drive. So, those kinds of things will happen. And to learn that it's not the end of the world, that, listen, it'll come back, it'll get fixed. We will do everything we can to support them, but to know that, to learn from those failures or setbacks. And I think that's the one thing, teachers always want to make sure that it's right, that they do it well, that they are successful, but we learn from those failures as well. And they're learning right now what is working and what doesn't working, and they're modifying as they go along. And I think that's something that we all can benefit from. So I think that's something that they're all learning right now that will be a benefit moving forward through education.
So to piggyback up what you and Anthony have said, I'm not going to surprise either one of you with the question. So 5 years from now, what would be the preferred future?
For me, I think students will always need to be in school and teachers will always need to be in the classroom. I don't think technology replaces any of that. As much as I love technology, but snow days, we could do remote learning on snow days now. There's no need to account for those. Al, how many snow days have you had in Colorado?
Yeah,
Do you
exactly.
even get snow days there because they're so used to it?
They really, it's funny. We came out here and my kids were expecting so many snow days, and there's like a foot of snow. They're like, no, there's school. And I'm like, wait, what? But we did have snow, believe it or not, last week, and the only consideration was for the teachers who actually go into the schools, but they didn't cancel anything. But it's true. There's opportunities not just for that, Carol, but also students that maybe they have social anxiety, or maybe they are being treated for different ailments. It sets us up to have that much easier, like a transition to that much easier, where they're not missing out on school. They can just go into the classroom and have synchronous sessions with the other students while they're at home. So it sets up
Right. They could be virtually learning if they can't physically be here. So I think that's one of the things we will definitely see moving forward in the future is more opportunities for that as needed. But I think, that social interaction of having students together, nothing replaces that. We're always going to need that.
Well said. All right, so we're up on time. Carol, listen, loved having you. Talking to you again. It's been a little while since we
I
chatted.
know I miss you guys.
Yeah, but it was really great having a conversation. We'd love you to have on again in the
Anytime.
future.
Let me know.
Continue conversation around this, or really anything in education you're expert in. Any final thoughts from Rich, Anthony, and then I'll let Carol have the last say.
I just want to say, you come back to the question is that, and thank you, Carol. We really appreciate having someone like yourself contribute to the conversation. I really do. There's an emerging future and there's a preferred future. The emerging future is that we've been forced to create increased a new kind of capacity for everyone, really, particularly for the state, for the school districts, the stakeholders. Now what we need to hope for that projected future, that preferred future, is that we maximize it to transform what we do from 5 years from now. That's your job.
I'm up for the challenge.
Anthony?
Yeah, my hope has been that this pandemic and its impact on education, that it helps to strip bare the reasons why we have been doing what we do and how we can do them differently, and for the benefit of children and teaching and learning. Now, I really think that the whole concept of the use of technology, you're right, technology is not a panacea, but certainly our world is full of technology, whether we like it or not. And how do we use that for positive reasons, and how do we integrate that positively in our life and in education? But more than that, to look at how we as educators can have schools that are classrooms that are far more engaging, that really do align more to the things that they're going to need. I hate to bring that word 21st century skills, because it's not, but how do we make them more innovative, more engaging? How do we cultivate creativity and problem solving? And I think that this is a benefit and a way to do that. And technology, to me, one of the things that technology is always presented is a way to do that much better in the classroom than we have, prior to the use of technology. So I only hope that we as a culture and a school and districts and education profession see that. For the first time, I think, unlike you guys, because you've been living this for so many years and we really can see the power of technology, and now we have to use it.
Mm-hmm.
And let's use it the right way to change education. It's possible.
And thank you, Anthony. And Carol, last thoughts?
So I appreciate the opportunity to come here and speak with all of you and be part of this conversation. It's something I really believe in, and it's something I'm very passionate about. And, I really think it's all about supporting teachers, supporting the leaders of the buildings so they can then support their teachers as well. And that's one of the things that I think we're doing very well here, because we're not a one way. We are, what do you need? How do you need it? I mean, I'm going into a teacher's classroom in a couple of minutes who's just down the hall to help her figure this out. Yeah. And they're not afraid to ask. And that's what I think is great. They want to learn and they want to do what is right for kids.
Excellent. Thank you,
And
Carol.
that's all we
so
can
much.
ask for.
Yes, exactly. Thanks again, Carol. Really appreciate your time and
Thanks,
love having
everyone.
you on.